Hi everybody, I wanted to do a quick fun video on Canadian slang words. I live in Canada. I was born in Bahamas, but my mum was Canadian, my dad was Bahamian, and I have my Canadian citizenship. So I've always lived here since I was literally like 6 weeks, 6 months old. So some of these words that we say here, people from other places don't understand what we're saying. So, and it also depends on whereabouts in Canada some of these words are more popular. So, for one, everybody I know from the States keep on saying that we Canadians say A all the time. Like, how you doing, A? We do say A, but not as often as it's portrayed in the media. It's more of like, what? Right? Like, hey, that was a great movie, eh? Like, not all the time. But, and it's like EH with a question mark. It's like A, like a question. Another one that we use all the time, it's our money. We have loonies and we have toonies. The loonies are a gold coin. They're worth $1, and a toonie has a polar bear on it, and it's worth $2. And we call Tim Hortons Timmies, and we call McDonald's McDicks. A double double is 2 cream, 2 sugar. A triple triple is 3 cream, 3 sugar. Timbits are little donut holes that you can get at Tim Hortons, but we also call any donut hole Timbits, just because. The 6 refers to the Greater Toronto area, the GTA, but it's mostly used when talking about Toronto. Thanks to Drake, Hogtown, Big Smoke, and T dot are what the 6 is. It's all because the 416 is their area code. That's a major slang, and it's mostly only used by people in Toronto. Here in Ottawa, we don't call it the 6, we call it Toronto. Two four or twofer, it's like the number 2 and 4, but the way it sounds is twofer is referring to a case of beer, because you go to a party. If you're going to like a beach party or whatever, you go with friends, you bring a twofer and you share amongst yourselves, close friends. So it refers to 24 beers in a case. I'm on my way to the beer store to get a twofer. A toque is a hat, any winter hat, usually with a pom-pom. Usually made of wool or some sort of mixture of it. A Mickey. Let me see. A Mickey is about 500 mils of alcohol. It's a small bottle, probably costs under $10 at the liquor store. You would pick one of those up if you were going out on the town, so you can get a little bit drunk before you head to the bars, so we could get our drink on early and not have to spend hundreds of dollars at the bar. Or you bring a Mickey of alcohol to a party so that you can make your own drinks or share with other people, so you don't have to bring a $20, $30 bottle of booze. Pop is soda, Coke, Pepsi, anything. We're going to go get pop at the store, or some places say soda, but most places just say pop. Like when you go to the restaurant, what type of pops do you have on tap? Because each restaurant either has Coke products or Pepsi products. Excuse me. That being said, also another word that we use, not as common now, but was common with my parents, was a Chesterfield. So a couch, a sofa, a Chesterfield is all the same thing. Just depends on where you were brought up. Another one is a keener. That's also a brown noser, somebody who is always sucking up to whoever to get, better job. You know, kids who study all night to get better marks on their tests. Oh, he's a keener. You know. Giver, GIVE'. It's giving all your effort, usually in sports. When you are, let's say in hockey, and you are you're behind on the goals, you're going to give it all you got, Cowtown. That's another place. It's not really referred to where I live in Ottawa, but it's a term used to describe Calgary, Alberta. Surprisingly, often used to actually, if for people who actually live in Calgary, because that's where basically all the cowboys are. So it's called Cowtown. Pablum. That was baby formula. It was invented in Canada, in the 1930s, and to the answer of vitamin and nutrient deficiencies. It was the baby's first solid food. At 6 months now, you gotta give them some pablum. So that's, it's just baby formula cereal. So, and it's still referred to that today. Gastown is another one that's referred to a place here in Canada. It's Vancouver's first neighborhood, named after Gassy Jack, Drayton, arts, media, technology, and tourist hub. It's just a place in Vancouver. But again, only people really in Vancouver call it that. A Newfie is a person who's from Newfoundland. A kerfuffle. I thought everybody kind of used this. It's kind of a small disagreement. Like hockey players on a fight on the ice, it's a kerfuffle because it's not a big, huge fight, and it really doesn't have any meaning behind it. It's kind of like, you have brothers fighting. They're in a kerfuffle over like a toy or something like that. It's not, it's like a minor incident versus like a big fight. Like usually nobody's hurt, there's no black eyes or cuts or anything like that. Maybe bruises depending on if one person's bigger than the other. A stag or a stagette, or it's what people have before a wedding. There's also, we call it dough, something in dough, buck and dough. It's basically a way to raise money. Sometimes before a wedding, they'll have a stag or stagette party, and they'll invite their friends and do like a casino type thing, or the guys will go and do a stag party, and there might be strippers involved, and the girls do the same and go drinking, usually alcohol and drinking and inappropriate stuff. A Muskoka chair. Basically, it's like same as like an Adirondack chair, but here in Canada we have the Muskokas, which is a beautiful area, lake area in the cottage country in Ontario, Canada, closer to Toronto than here. We went there one summer and it was beautiful, but it's those Adirondack chairs. In the States, you guys have the Adirondacks. It's the same type of chair, but we call them Muskoka chairs because just because. Whitener is non-dairy creamer, so like coffee mate. Runners are shoes, running shoes, sneakers. We always say grab your runners. We don't call them really sneakers, but they're the same thing. Skookum. That is another way of saying you got like a fantastic, good, great. So I got a skookum deal on this shirt. It's not really that popular of a phrase, but you do hear it usually in the country or in the valley. That's another one for in the Ottawa Valley. We call it the valley. So there's Ottawa, and then there's outside on the west end of Ottawa. We call it the valley. It encompasses a whole bunch of small townships and cities, and people in town tend to, in the city of Ottawa area, tend to say that the people in the valley are sometimes slower, or oh, it's from, she's from the valley or whatever. Just kind of semi-derogatory term. And some cities in the valley are known for a lot of pot use and stuff like that. So that would say if you met up with somebody who is a stoner. I don't know if you guys use stoner in the States too. That's somebody who smokes pot all the time. So if you got introduced to a friend of a friend that was a stoner, and they're like, oh, they're from the valley. Oh, that excuses it, because there's nothing else to do in the valley besides smoking up, I guess. So, poutine. Poutine is a common side dish at any restaurant in Canada. It's basically fries, gravy, and cheese curds, mozzarella cheese curds. But if they don't have cheese curds, they'll use shredded mozzarella cheese. Any restaurant you go to here, pretty much like a diner type restaurant, if there's fries on the menu and there's cheese on the menu, gravy on the menu, you can ask for a side of poutine, and you'll get probably charged $1 or maybe $2 more for a side of poutine instead of just regular fries. A Canuck is referring to Canadians, and also more of the crazier Canadians. So like it's kind of a term of endearment, or oh, those crazy Canucks, because they're always doing something crazy. Like especially kids that grew up in the country or into small towns and stuff, they do a lot more crazy stuff than the ones in the bigger city. Like more creative, crazy stuff, like doing shopping cart races down big hills and stuff like that. In the big city, there's just too much traffic to do that kind of thing. Or go mailbox hitting with baseball bats, or tipping cows. You don't see a lot of city kids doing that type of stuff. Z, which is another way of saying the letter Z. We do both, but the traditional British tradition is Z. So, like X, Y, Z. And that's because Americans say Z. Click. That's referring to kilometers. So, how far is Montreal from here? Oh, that's about 300 clicks, Let's see. Beauty. It's basically a term that either referring to a person or to an item. Like, so if your mom, you went over to your friend's place and their mom made homemade cookies, or that, oh, she's a beauty because, she went out of her way to do something. Also using beauty as like You're in high school and your friend just saved up all their money and bought a brand new used car. Oh, she's a beauty. Just referring to that it's a really good deal, and and it looks good. Pencil crayons. It I don't know what else they are called, but somebody was saying that they're not called pencil crayons. They're coloring pencils. You use them to color in coloring books. We up here we usually use them in geography class. We used a marker to outline the maps, and then we used the pencil crayons on the inside to color them in different colors. Snowbirds, that's basically referring to Canadians that live up here in Canada during the summertime and go down to down south, usually to Florida, for the wintertime. For usually December, January, February, which are our worst months of the year. Another one that we use here too is true. Oh, true, true. Like, instead of saying okay. So if you're going to be late and you call somebody and say, hey, I'm going to be late, I missed my bus or whatever, and somebody would say, oh, no problem, true. That's okay. No problem. Queue. So basically, in a lineup, you stand in queue at the grocery store or stand in queue at the bank. You stand in queue at Canada's Wonderland or at the fair. You don't butt in line. Beaver tail. So they were actually invented here in Ottawa. There's stores that make them. They're basically a dough that is deep fried, and then it has toppings like Nutella or cinnamon sugar and lemon, or they do savory ones of garlic, butter, and cheese. I think that's it. Oh, so I think there's a strawberry topping too. So they're beaver tails, or some places they call them whale tails, but beaver tails is a brand name, like a registered trademark. I've heard in the States you guys have something called elephant's ears, basically the same thing. But if you ever come to Ottawa area, they are called beaver tails. And you can get them at least, at most, we can get them downtown Ottawa and at most malls. Or every second mall. A serviette is a napkin, paper napkin that you get at Tim Hortons or McDonald's. That is all that I can think of. But if I think of any more, I'll do a part 2. So how many of those did you know? Comment below. And if you can think of any more, put those underneath too. What are different slangs in your country that people might not know? Bye.